kind of in that moment that I felt like God began to challenge me and press me by saying, Todd, I'm not interested in you Christianizing your life. I'm interested in you crucifying your life. I'm like, Lord, I didn't go to a Christian college. I don't own a passport. I don't wear Toms. I am so far removed from like anything Christian. There's just no way. There's no way that I'm going to do this. I can't be a missionary. There's one verse in the Bible about missions. I'm not going to hang my life on one verse. There's one verse on missions, one verse on snake handling. I don't do either. I told my wife, I'm like, I got to train my eyes to see his mission. I bought a new Bible. I bought a yellow highlighter. I started in Genesis. The only verses I would highlight are verses that had any of these words. All peoples, nations, earth, tribes, tongues, or languages. If the verse I came across had the word all peoples, nations, earth, tribes, tongues, or languages, I would highlight it. All peoples, nations, earth, tribes, tongues, languages. 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 All peoples, nations, earth, tribes, tongues. And when I got to the end, it took me 2.5 highlighters. Not because I left the cap off, but because there's that many verses. So now when someone comes up to me and says, Todd, why in the world are you moving your wife and 5 kids to the Middle East in a war zone? I say, why are you not? The Lord said to Abram, leave your country, your people, your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. It's important to know as of this moment, Abraham has no idea God's name. That's not revealed until Genesis 15. Abraham has no idea the land he is to go. God just says go. Abraham has no idea how long he is to stay. But God says, I'm going to bless you, Abraham. I'm going to make your name great. I'm going to make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. Whoever curse you, I will curse. But here it is. Are you ready for this? Get used to hearing this, Abram. All peoples on earth, all nations on earth will be blessed through you. God's only going to repeat that 1,600 more times in Scripture. He will repeat that line right there, 1,600 more. All peoples, all nations. I was a Christian for a decade before I realized the importance of Genesis chapter 12. I had no idea the importance of Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12 is where the mission of God begins. God scatters the nations in Genesis 11. God picks Abraham. I call this right here the Abrahamic Revolution. Because what began with Abraham comes with us. Think about it. The domino tips with Abraham, and it goes from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob to Joseph to Joshua to David, the prophets, to Jesus, to us. But the mission of God, make no mistake, begins in Genesis 12. And watch what happens in verse 4. Abraham leaves. He leaves. Hey, Abraham, this isn't just for you. The mission of God continues with your son, Isaac. Isaac, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and give them all these lands. Genesis 26:4. And all the nations on the earth will be blessed through you. There it is again. Jacob, just like your father, Isaac, in Genesis 28, God says to Jacob, your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and it will spread out to the west, to the east, to the north, to the south. And here it is again. We're not even out of Genesis yet. Are you like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob? I'm reaching all nations. Are you on board? Oh, we're in the family of God. We love Jesus. We received him. We don't celebrate Halloween. But when it comes to missions, it's like, wait a minute, Lord, that's not for me. I'm different. I have 2 kids in college, a truck, and a business. But I'm sure the guy with no personality and parents who care, he can go to Guatemala. It's just I'm different. I'm kind of needed. And if you're not careful, you'll justify your inactivity of why you are not involved in God's mission. You'll push it off on somebody else. That when you fall in love with someone, you begin to love the things they love, right? I mean, for my wife, it was like she didn't have the coffee app, she didn't know what the Starbucks was, she wasn't Gold Star counting. But all of a sudden, now that she fell in love with me, she began to fall in love with the things I love. And I did the same thing with her. Before I got married, I thought Bed Bath & Beyond was a hotel. Now I'm on Pinterest. I mean, weird things happen when you fall in love with someone. And so maybe you're here this morning and you're like, Todd, missions is not my thing. No thanks. I don't have a heart for the world. I don't pray for Guatemala and cry. I don't want anything to do with it. But you know what? God does. God has a heart for the world. And is that right there a big enough reason to let that become your heart?